The 1960s gave us Motown, Stax, and all the obvious legends. But for every superstar, there was a band that never got its flowers. In this video, we're spinning 12 underrated R&B and soul groups that helped shape the decade. Coming in at number 12, the Esquires' Get On Up hits like a shot of caffeine. Tight horns, a strutting bass line, and those sharp group vocals make it feel like a Chicago party caught on tape. The Esquires came out of Milwaukee, but their sound fit right into that mid-60s Chicago soul lane, bouncy, bright, and built for dancing. They followed it with And Get Away. Another catchy mover, but outside of soulhead circles, their name rarely gets mentioned next to the big guys. Most people know the hook, not the band. The Esquires are the reminder that not every great 60s groove came stamped with a Motown logo. At number 11, the Mad Lads. The Mad Lads are what happens when Memphis soul gets soft around the edges. On Don't Have to Shop Around, you get smooth harmonies, a gentle groove, and just enough grit to keep it real.
She'll never put me down.
It's romantic, but not syrupy. Like a love song sung on a front porch, not a big stage. I Want Someone leans even more into the heartbreak. With those high, aching background vocals that stick to your memory. They had regional success on Stack's Vote, but never the global shine of Otis or Sam and Dave, which is wild when you hear how strong the records are. Sliding in at number 10, the Artistics' I'm Gonna Miss You is one of those songs that makes you stop mid-conversation. The Artistics ride a classic Chicago soul arrangement, rolling drums, warm horns, and a lead vocal that sounds both hurt and dignified at the same time. It's polished, but still feels human. Tracks like This Heart of Mine show how good they were at balancing group harmonies with strong lead lines, the skill you usually hear credited to bigger name groups. They brushed the charts, got some regional love, and then slipped into deep cut status. The Artistics are the kind of band that make you double-check the label, wondering how a sound this good didn't end up way more famous. And if that was the sound of heartbreak in a tailored suit, the next band shows you what happens when that same hurt spills onto the dance floor. At number 9, the Tams' What Kind of Fool Do You Think I Am? Is that perfect mix of hurt and swagger. The Tams came out of Atlanta with beach music DNA and southern soul grit. And this track feels like a conversation you wish you'd actually had with your ex.
I've got to be your number one, or I ain't.
The lead vocal pleads and pushes at the same time. The harmonies snap in behind him, and the groove walks that line between laid back and fed up. It's the sound of someone finally saying what they have been holding back. Then you get Be Young, Be Foolish, Be Happy.
Be young, be foolish, but be happy.
Which lives in this sweet spot between soul anthem and dance floor sing-along. The message is simple. Stop overthinking. Live a little. But the way they sell it turns every chorus into a shout-along. It's the kind of song that turns a random bar, wedding, or beach party into a big messy choir.
Just your storm and then you find your dream.
The Tams had real hits, but outside the Carolinas and serious oldies heads, their name barely comes up, while their records just keep quietly living on in the background of people's lives. Number 8, the Intruders. If you want to hear Philly soul being born in real time, start with the Intruders. Cowboys to Girls is simple on paper, little story, easy hook, but the blend of sweet, slightly rough-edged vocals and that tight, bouncing rhythm section is basically the blueprint Gamble and Huff would build an empire on later. You can already hear the Philadelphia sound starting to take shape. Clean guitar licks, steady drums, and a melody that sticks long after the record stops. Then you hit Love Is Like a Baseball Game. And it proves how good they were at turning everyday images into full emotional metaphors without ever tipping into corny. It's playful, but the feelings underneath are real. The Intruders weren't just a warm-up act for the 70s, they were the test run, the proof of concept. Say, Intruders out loud, and half the room goes blank, until the record starts playing and everyone suddenly remembers. Coming in at number 7, the Unifics. The Unifics brought full theater to soul music. Court of Love doesn't just talk about heartbreak, it stages it like a trial, judge, jury, and a sentence you can't appeal. The production is dramatic. The harmonies are huge, and it still somehow feels intimate, like you're overhearing someone's private breakdown. The Beginning of My End keeps that same cinematic vibe, all slow build and emotional payoff. They had a couple of strong chart runs, sharp suits, and a totally distinct sound. But their name almost never comes up when people list 60s greats. And if you think that was dramatic, the next group proves you don't need a big stage to make a breakup feel like the end of the world. If you're feeling these deep-cut heartbreaks, hit like and subscribe to support the channel. Because the next group turns that same pain into something even more intimate and impossible to shake. At number 6, Brenda and the Tabulations. Dry Your Eyes feels like someone crying in the kitchen after everyone's gone home. Brenda Payton's voice is raw and slightly ragged, and the guys behind her answer every line like a Greek chorus of heartbreak. The arrangement is simple, but every drum hit and organ stab makes the pain land harder. They kept that vibe going on later tracks, building a tiny universe of bittersweet breakup songs where the production never gets in the way of the feeling. They had hits, but their name doesn't get thrown around like the big Philly acts. Meanwhile, their records still hurt in all the right ways. Coming in at number 5, the Soul Children. The Soul Children sound like a Sunday service that spilled out of the church and onto tape. On The Sweeter He Is, the voices stack up, male and female leads trading lines, harmonies swelling behind them, and the band plays like they're chasing the singers, not the other way around. It's gospel intensity poured into a soul ballad. They were built to fill the space left after Sam and Dave, and you can hear that same call and response energy, just with more voices and more layers. They scored several strong R&B hits, but outside hardcore Memphis fans, they rarely get credited for how much emotion they brought to the late 60s. Sliding into number 4, the Friends of Distinction.
I'm an ever-spinning car.
Grazing in the Grass is basically Sunshine in song form. Wordy, bouncy, packed with harmonies and horn lines, it turns a jazz instrumental into a full-blown vocal party. The Friends of Distinction were masters at that, taking complex arrangements and making them feel light, bright, and effortless. Then you hear Love or Let Me Be Lonely. And it shifts into that bittersweet LA soul space. Smooth, a little wistful, and insanely catchy. They had legit chart success, but today, most people recognize the songs without ever knowing the group's name. But just when that groove feels like it can't get any smoother, the next group steps in and shows how tight a family band can sound when every harmony is wired straight to the heart. At number 3 are the 5 Stairsteps. Before Oh Child ever showed up in the 70s, the 5 Stairsteps were already quietly killing it in the late 60s. World of Fantasy and their other early sides have that deep Chicago soul sound, layered harmonies, warm strings, and a rhythm section that's smooth but never sleepy. You can hear the family blend in every line. The voices locked together in a way you just don't get from a random studio group. By the time they reached OOH Child, they'd basically invented their own lane. Hopeful, melodic soul that feels like a hand on your shoulder. They had hits, but in most people's minds, they're still that one-song band, which seriously undersells how strong the earlier 60s catalog is. Next up, our runner-up. The Bar-Kays' Soul Finger is chaos in the best way. Kids yelling, horns blasting, bass popping, and a groove that sounds like a street parade turning into a full-blown party. The Bar-Kays started as a teenage instrumental group in Memphis, then leveled up fast when they became Otis Redding's backing band. You can hear that Stax grit all over their 60s sides. After the tragic plane crash that took most of the band with Otis, the surviving members rebuilt the group and spent a lot of time in the background, powering other people's records. That's part of why casual listeners don't always know their name, even though musicians worship them. The 60s Bar-Kays are the reminder that sometimes the tightest band in the room isn't the one on the marquee. Topping the list at number 1, the Meters' Cissy Strut doesn't waste a second. No big intro, no vocal, just straight into one of the cleanest, funkiest grooves ever put on tape. The Meters came out of New Orleans with a sound that was technically R&B, technically soul, technically funk, but really just the Meters. Clipped guitar, deep pocket drums, swampy organ, and bass lines that never stop moving. Tracks like Cissy Strut and Sophisticated Cissy turned them into a musician's band, sampled, studied, and copied for decades. While a lot of regular listeners only know the riffs without knowing the name, they backed up everyone from Lee Dorsey to Dr. John, quietly shaping what 60s and early 70s groove would sound like. If the whole list is about bands who shaped the decade from the shadows, the Meters are the final proof. Even when you don't see them, you're still hearing them. And that's our list. If you discovered a new favorite today, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment with the most slept-on soul group you think we missed. And if you want to hear how wild things got before the 60s, go watch our deep dive on the 10 most controversial band songs of the 1950s next.